I've just got back from Hagerty's Festival of the Unexceptional, a celebration of ordinary cars that were once everywhere but that have more or less died out. Well, they haven't completely died out because otherwise there wouldn't be much of a show. And in fact, there was a whole field full of them in front of a big stately home in Lincolnshire. Festival of the Unexceptional is mostly about base models and ordinary cars. This channel tends to be about affordable executive saloons and coupes from the 1970s, 80s and into the 90s. So did I fit in, and did I find anything there of interest from a Grand Thrift Auto point of view? Oh yes. This was a cracking start. The arrival of a fantastic looking Peugeot 604 Ti and a Renault 30 TX V6 to go with it. They're glorious, aren't they? Absolutely fantastic. These cars both share the same 2.7 PRV V6 engine, and I would gladly sell body parts to have either of them. When I die, I want to be buried in that interior. Speaking of V6s, here's a rare animal. This is a Mazda 323F, nearly 25 years old already. That's hard to believe. It looks so fresh. That interior is a bit tasty as well. And this has got a V6, 24 valve. It doesn't really look like it belongs at a car show. It looks too modern, but nice. Very classy. Here's an old friend. This Hyundai Stellar belongs to Matt the Cat from the Beige Forum, and although it's badged as a 1.6, he's an engineer by trade, and he's done a fantastic job of shoehorning in a Rover V8 engine and a 5-speed manual LT77 gearbox. It looks like it was born there. It's just beautifully done, although it was a lot of work. And this is his daily driver. He's owned it since he was a lad. It was one of his first cars, if not the first. And he did the conversion a few years ago. It's a brilliant job and a glorious car. And I love that it looks completely stock. It's actually been lowered very slightly and has a slightly bigger exhaust. Brilliant car. One day, he lives up in North Wales, one day I might go and visit him and see if he'll let me have a go. This is beautiful. It's a Mercedes 190 2.6, the top version apart from the super sporty ones, and it's a really nice spec. It's a lovely slate blue and grey velour interior. Really smart. I had a good chat with the owner, really nice guy who's not had it that long and is very pleased with it. And you can see there we are, the 2.6 litre straight 6 engine, very smooth. There's another 190, there are a couple there. This one belongs to Simon from Lot 76 Cars channel. So there's more on this on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. This is also a really nice car. That primer grey colour is very now. There's a brave choice in, what's that, 1989 or 90 on a G-Reg, but it's in really good order, and another guy was great to meet and say hello to. Talbot Horizon GLS, top of the line, I think, or top of the line-ish. 5-speed when cars had the number of gears on the sticker on the boot lid. Resplendent in brown with a lovely golden velour interior. That stood up to the test of time very well. Looks very smart. I really like the adjusting door mirrors on this. That was pretty innovative on a car of this class when it came out in the late 70s. This looked really nice. 1.5, same engine as my Rancho. You can hear it rattling from here. There was a whole bunch of Talbots actually. So there's a Solara here, Solara Minx in 80s two-tone beige. There's another Solara Rapier. For the run-out models they resurrected the Minx and Rapier names as model designations. So this one's in a sort of beigey metallic colour with a really nice tasteful kind of brown interior. I rather like that actually. That's a rather nice spec. Another Talbot that we parked next to was this little Samba Convertible in absolutely pristine condition. Looked really good. Really pretty cars. I knew a couple of people back when we were teenagers that had the hatchback versions of these, and those were loud and buzzy enough to scoot about in. I'm not quite sure what the soft top must be like. A bit wearing on a motorway, I'd imagine. But look how beautiful that is. Pretty cars. Continuing the Talbot theme, this is a Simca 1100 van, badged as a Talbot because it's a very late one. Now that's not very Grand Thrift Auto, except it shares the same underpinnings as my Matarancho. So as well as admiring the condition and handsomeness of this particular example, I had a good look underneath to see what the underpinnings of the chassis are supposed to look like and what the sills look like at the back end. So I've got some footage of the underneath of this one. The interior is from the more basic and older Simca 1100, so not quite as fancy as the Rancho. Really pretty BMW E34 5 Series. In very good nick, this one. They lift the bonnet up, which reveals that actually it's the 4-cylinder 518 version. I think I might have kept the bonnet shut myself. It's been debadged. I'd have taken that for a 530i all day long. Oh well, still a lovely car. And here's mine that I brought, my Bahama Beige E30, and next to it a pair of Volvo Estates down from Scotland, still used as daily drivers. David's is in really good nick, his 740, complete with Garfield, and next to it Adrian's, which is equally lovable, but it's in the way that 740s have looked for a long time, which is sort of barely holding it together. This is the interior of David's. Really nice place to be. Super comfy seats, although he reckons the driver's seat is getting a bit worn, but otherwise you'd never know. And Adrian's has the benefit of working headlamp wipers. I can't remember the last time I saw a car with working headlamp wipers. Fantastic. David's work too. This guy was also with us down from Scotland, Stuart, in his Triumph Toledo, really early Toledo I think, so rear wheel drive 1300, correct me if I'm wrong, looking really well. Very handsome thing. Styling very much a sort of forerunner of the BMW E30. Black number plates, not inappropriate for the year. Let's have a look inside. Thanks, Stuart. Oh, it's a nice place to be. Look at that dash, so simple, so elegant. This enormous steering wheel, so airy as well, and this one's in really good nick, especially inside. The outside is also really good, but it's a little bit worn around the edges. It's a really honest car. It's not been over restored at all. It's in good but not pristine condition. 4-cylinder 1300 inline rear wheel drive on this one. There was a mixture of rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive and all sorts going on in the Triumph range. And last of our group, but by no means least, is Gary from the Modern Heroes EV channel. Great channel on electric vehicles, but he does like his chunky old 90s and 80s cars as well, and actually some 2000s ones. This is his Astra convertible that he got quite recently. He brought an Astra last year, a hatchback, and nobody paid any attention to it whatsoever. This year, the winner of the show was Mark III Astra. They've obviously come back into favour with the classic car community. I had two cars at the show actually, because my friend Rob brought this up from London, my early Renault Espace. Such a practical thing. And if the rain had got any bigger, we'd have all camped in here and had a picnic. He'd set it up in picnic format with a few old Giffer trinkets in there as well. There's a whole video on this I'll put a link to as well. Next to it, this rather handsome Scirocco, looking very smart indeed. Scirocco's coming back into vogue, having been worth nothing for ages. This Princess looks lovely. I think a fairly basic, quite early 1800. Without any vinyl roof pillars and with a vinyl seat interior. I had a go of a 2200 Princess the other week, very briefly. Didn't do any filming of it. Might get to do that another time because it belongs to a friend of mine. It was a much better car than I expected. Really nice to drive. This one's really pretty. There was another brown one as well that looked nice. Citroen XM here, an early one, pre-facelift. I think they're a bit more complicated and prone to going wrong, but still very handsome things. There were quite a few Citroens, a couple of XMs, and quite a lot of BXs. This is quite an up-spec special edition Pilot one with a sort of GTI or TRS type interior, and another Garfield, badged as a 16 RS, so 1.6 high-ish spec, but with some extra toys from further up the range. And there were some early Mark 1 BXs as well, with the smaller orange lights. a TRS and a GT here, both of which have those sort of fantastic plastic opera windows in the C-pillars that usually go cloudy, but on both of these two they are still clear and transparent. Top of the range 16 valve as well. Look at that, full leather interior. Those seats look pretty supportive. Very smart. And another GT, you know, that has the proper cloudy C-pillars. They had those after about 2 years. So I don't know how the other ones have managed to get away with it. 1.9 carburetor spec, the GT. And here's a basic one. The most basic of all, a 14E. I think France got an 11E, and I bet Italy had that too. But this is the most basic that we got in the UK. I think this looks like a leader, but it's not badged as such, it's just badged as a 14E. I've got a bit of a thing for 70s and 80s Renaults as well, so this was exciting. This is a Renault 11 TXE electronic 1.7 top of the range pre-facelift. Lovely car, looked immaculate and had all the toys. It's got speaking computer and loads of stereo equipment with tiny buttons you can just about see in there, and those fantastic pedal seats, a bit like the ones in my Espace actually, which are as comfy as they look. Lovely car, and those same bonkers steering column switches as well that the Espace has look really nice. Now this guy was a complete hero. Sean, his name is. This Renault 5 is his, and he had all sorts of rusty bits and a game of identify where it came from. We had a really good chat about rust traps and 70s Renault suspension geometry, and I love the way that he is all about the functionality and not at all about the polished looks. And this looks like Renault 5s did in, what, the sort of late 80s, and you found them on back streets. Brilliant. Absolutely love this car. Hello, as an Audi 80 B3. I know the owner of this from Twitter, Chris Mountford. Really nice guy, and we've had lots of swapping of messages, and I did eventually manage to catch up with him, and I admired his B3 Audi 80. I think the only B3 I saw at the show. As well as Chris's Audi 80 B3, there were a bunch of Audi 80 B2s. This matched pair, an 80 Sport, Phase 2 and a Phase 1 CD next to it. Interesting to compare the two. The facelift only lasted a couple of years of production, but the front wings and the rear wings and the boot is substantially re-engineered. So quite a lot of differences for a car that only really had a short production run before the B3 came in. Really smart these. I've driven an 80 Sport recently, and I haven't posted a video yet, but I will do soon. Plenty of Saabs there. This was probably the most me, this 900 turbo with the 3-spoke wheels, the 16 valve high pressure turbo, I think. It even had its headlining mostly stuck to the roof. Looked particularly smart, and velour rather than leather interior, which is very much the Grand Thrift Auto way. Really like that. There are a few Saab 900s. There was this white one as well. And some Volvos too. This Amazon 122S looked really smart. Sounded good too. I heard it was leaving. Didn't have a chance to record that, unfortunately. But that looked really good. And there were some 240s around, as well as the 740s that we talked about earlier that I came down with, and various of those around the field. There's a silver one there. And this nice 240 GL saloon, and there was a red estate as well. So plenty of Volvos about, still looking good. They almost don't look like car show cars. I'm still used to seeing these around, although they're starting to get more scarce now. This Datsun Laurel is very special. I recognise this. I think it's a regular at shows, and I'm not sure the owner isn't on Twitter or somewhere. It definitely looks very familiar and very smart indeed. The interior is particularly lovely, with these golden brown seats that look super comfy, and I bet they are as well. This matched pair of Colt Sapporos were quite a treat, looking very smart. Amazing interior with that tartan cloth meets a whole bunch of vinyl. Really tidy looking as well, both of them. This sort of grey one and a silver one. Silver one I think on factory wheels, although I'm not sure. I think they certainly had multi-spokes that they came on. Look at that burgundy vinyl and red check. Oh, oof. almost too much goodness, but not quite, just spot on. Really like that. These are handsome looking things. I'm not sure they're brilliant cars, but they look really good. Mitsubishi reused the Sapporo name on this, which was a development of the Gallant Saloon with a V6 24 valve engine, and I think they did a turbo too. Well, I'm sure they did a turbo as well. These are handsome things. I bet that's a comfortable way to get about. I nearly bought a Gallant once and it was just so soft and squashy and wafty, but all those tiny buttons, wow. Yeah, nice, very smart. I was admiring this Daewoo Espero when I bumped into Joseph Lloyd of the Lloyd Vehicle Consulting Channel.
Hello, Mr. Martin Charles from the Grand Thrift Auto channel.
Hello, Mr. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting.
Are you enjoying the Daewoo Espero, sir?
I am. He will do a completely comprehensive review of every car on the site. So if your car isn't featured here, then it'll be on his channel. I'll put a link to that below. Guilty secrets. I have a bit of a soft spot for a metallic green 1.6 GL Cavalier Mark II. I don't know why, I just really like them. Interior and exterior, it's just the perfect Cavalier for me, and a pre-facelift one at that. So this I really like. It's one of my favourite cars of the show. Lots of people have this as their favourite car, Ed Ratley's Daihatsu Fellow Max, and it's brilliant. 1970s 600 odd cc K car from Japan. Not sold in the UK, so especially imported. Ed has a brilliant collection of oddball, mostly Japanese cars and all sorts of weirdness. Some really great stuff. So my video editor tells me that I've already got a 16-minute film, and that's as long as I've ever made a film. So I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to call this part 1. I'm going to make part 2, and I'll post it up tomorrow, and I'll put the link there. So click on that when it appears. Make yourself a cup of tea in the meantime. The best is yet to come.